For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
I'm Steve Torrence, four-time NHRA Top Fuel World Champion. And when me and these Capco boys win races, we go straight WFO.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. WFO Radio back on the air following the NHRA Midwest Nationals, race 3 of the NHRA playoff countdown. What a race it was. It was a sold-out crowd on Saturday. We saw a Top Fuel world speed record, and we saw the points get tightened up just as close as they could possibly be. The top 5 drivers in Top Fuel separated by less than 50 points. Oh my goodness, Steve Torrence getting the win in Top Fuel. Funny Car Robert Hight defeats Ron Capps in the final round. Pro Stock Erica Enders wins her 4th consecutive race out there at St. Louis. Amazing stuff. And Matt Smith in the final round, Pro Stock Motorcycle. We're going to talk about it all with the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, who is just seconds away. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. Those of you who watch the show every week, you're thinking this show is happening a little earlier than it normally does. And the answer is yes, that is true. Reinhardt's got studio work. I've got a thing too. And so we just moved up an hour. But if you're watching on demand after the fact, you don't even notice this. So what's the point, really? Well, we need you to share the show. Share it out there, baby. Retweet it, repeat it. If you're on YouTube, click that share button, the like and the bell and all of those things, because that really helps get the show out there. And when I beg you guys to do it, I see the difference, believe it or not. When I play it cool and don't ask you and play aloof, I see the difference, believe it or not. So I'm not embarrassed to tell you guys, hey, share the show, because we're going to be talking NHRA Camping World Drag Racing, Lucas Oil Drag Racing. So there's only 3 races left. 3 races left in the 2022 season. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do during that off season? Don't worry. We have all kinds of great content, and WFO does a good job of bridging the gap, but this time the gap is going to be until March. What are we going to do? We'll talk about that later. All right, Reinhardt's getting queued up. I got some winner views, but we're going to do after Reinhardt this time. And there's a whole issue that I will explain, because I like to always let the audience behind the scene and our great moments and also our little mini catastrophes that we have here on WFO, right? You guys get to know it all. Know it all. Exactly. Let me tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, like our next race, the Stampede of Speed. Oh, yeah, so exciting. We're going to be out there at the Texas Motorplex at the Stampede of Speed, where they are going to be there beginning on Friday, this Friday, Funny Car Chaos. Going to start it off Friday, then I'll get there on Saturday, then Sunday you're going to have the Stars Over Texas Festival. Brett Young going to be out there. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. And concerts and Scott Palmer's Nitro Sideshow. And we're going to be talking about all of that leading right into the Fall Nationals, which will be race 4. And it's going to be great. So check it out. Go to the website, Texas Motorplex, Stampede of Speed, and get tickets for all of the different events, because it is going to be awesome. And thanks to those guys for coming on board with WFO Radio. Phillips Connect, Phillips-Connect.com. And I think I'm putting the banners up there. They're just not going up today, right? The web is acting weird. As a trained radio person, I just keep on going, baby. I don't care if the internet drops out. I just keep on going. And I have been going and going and going. And it turns out the internet was not connected. And I am just going to keep on going, because that's what I do. You just keep going, baby. You keep going. But big thanks to the folks at the Stampede of Speed, of course, for jumping on board. We'll see you there beginning on Saturday with Funny Car Chaos. And then the entire event, right? Phillips Connect, Smart Trailer Technology, Phillips-Connect.com. If you are in the transportation industry, like so many are, if you have trucks going out there over the road, Phillips-Connect.com. Check them out. All the different sensors they have available. Also, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters, FTIperformance.com. Go to the website. Paul Lee and his team. They're located in DeLand, Florida, and it's pretty crazy that this is a company that has accelerated to the forefront of transmissions and torque converters in just about 10 years, maybe a little longer than 10 years. Go to FTIperformance.com to find out more information. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We got a new episode of Hidden Horsepower up. David and Ray Barton. Very interesting stuff in that episode. You are going to love it. David and Ray Barton. Perfect example. Ray Barton, we're not going out there to make friends and have little picnics and parties. We're going out there to crush people. And I was like, yeah, that's what people like to say. And people like to hear it. Go to Total Seal's SoundCloud or their website and find out more information. But it's all an exercise to teach you about ring seal and the importance thereof. TotalSeal.com. Greatly appreciate those guys. Another good weekend for Hartford. And then there's Bernie's Speed Shop, Bernie's.com. Hit their social media. Follow along with what they do, whether it be window tinting or car detailing or a full frame off restoration. They build trucks and trailers. It's amazing what Bernie's does in their 100,000 square feet with over $5 million of inventory. So if you're looking for a muscle car, go to Bernie's. If you want to sell a muscle car, go to Bernie's because they do consignment as well. Later on in the show, I'll tell you a little bit about samtech.edu, Frank Hawley's drag racing school, and Marvin Rodak, so everybody can get ahead ordering their Rodak's coffee and just pick it up when you go to the Stampede of Speed, right? Like I want 50 pounds of the WFO radio blend, Marvin, 50 pounds. And you can just pick it up and put it in your trailer. All right, let's go out to Parts Unknown and check in with the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart. What's up,
Hey.
AR? Good morning.
Just living the dream. How about you?
Well, we had an internet crash mid-show, and we fixed it. We came back on the air, and maybe some people didn't even notice, but I told them. I just told them about it, so I let them behind the curtain a little bit. Where are you? Yeah,
You don't have to know everything.
Yeah, I don't. That's your.
I'm hiding out. No, I'm in Indianapolis. I've got some voiceover work that I've got to do today, and so I just borrowed a conference room, and it has a very aesthetically friendly white wall behind me, so I could be anywhere.
You could be anywhere. You could be in the witness protection program. All right, let's dive right into it. We want to make sure, Men in Black, we want to make sure that you get out of here in time to go do your studio work, as do I. That's why we started a little bit early today, and the audience knows it's not the timing that everybody's used to, but they're all going to share, and they'll watch after the fact regardless. But Robert Hight said it after 3 races. Everybody kind of says it. After 3 races, things will take shape. And I think after the 3rd race, some things have taken shape depending on the category you're talking about. Top Fuel, nothing has taken shape, right? We've still got a razor close matchup with the top 5 drivers within 50 points.
Well, in Top Fuel, basically the top 4 coming in were all spectators by round 2. And in Funny Car, the top 4 in points coming in were the final 4 in the semifinals. So, the funny car leaders are trying to separate themselves from the pack, and Top Fuel is still wide open. You look at Justin Ashley, who came in with 2 solid outings, put himself in the points lead. I think everybody at that point was thinking, okay, somebody better figure out a way to slow this kid down. And then he goes out and smokes the tires in the first round, and all of a sudden you're human again. It looks like Brittany Force has got her race car back, and I've said all along I wasn't ready to write her off just yet because they had a couple of bad races, and even though she didn't certainly get the result they would have liked, it looks like the race car is back, so that's good news for them. Steve Torrence, guys are back on track. I spent a pretty extensive amount of time talking to Richard Hogan, and he let me in on a couple of things that they've done. And last week at the shop, and between Charlotte and going, they said we've changed something specific, and he asked me not to share, so I won't. But that obviously, made their car look like their old car again. Going out and qualifying number 1 and setting low ET and then running the tables. So I think he's gonna be a serious player. Antron's certainly not out of it, even though this wasn't his best showing this week. So it's just the nitro classes right now. The Funny Car top 4 look like they're trying to run away and battle it out between themselves. Certainly Tasca is trying to get back in that fight, and they need to have a good day in Texas to not let those top 4 get too much further away. But Robert Hight right now, Ron Capps, they're just looking like the class of the field.
They really are. And so people are commenting and all like, this guy, what's happening to Brittany? Well, she actually gained points on the leader is what happened and set the world speed record, right? It's all, and I probably sound like a broken record or a shill for the countdown. And Robert is going to join us on the show. We're going to see him in the winner's circle, and he's going to mention his potential ideas for a countdown revamp, which I support, having wins be more relevant because he's got 8 of them and he's only 40 points up on Ron Capps. But regardless, this is so exciting. The idea that it's this, you don't know who's going to be on top and who's going to be on the bottom. And just when you think you're getting this escape velocity and Justin Ashley and Antron Brown, they're going to go out there and nope, Justin loses the marquee matchup to Mike Salinas. They're both up in smoke. And now the whole field is reset. And to me, it's just awesome. Meanwhile, you got Steve Torrence. You said it. He told us in the media center, they've been working on how to, here's what Steve said. I don't want you to tell me what Hoagie said, right? But here's what Steve said. He said, when you can run a 65 or 66, which we have in the past, when everything is perfect is one thing. But when you can run a 65 or 66 and really make up a lot of speed and ET down the track, further down the track, that gives us flexibility in other areas and makes us just able to do it in different circumstances. And he kind of explained it that way. And that appeared to be what they did.
Well, yeah, and it's about power application. We all know that every car out there's got enough power to smoke the tires. So it's all about power application and then trying to figure out how you can adapt the power. And it's not just the magic in the clutch can, although that's certainly part of it, but you manipulate the power output of the engine as well. So you've got a couple of moving pieces that have to be exactly in sync. How fast the clutch is coming after the engine, trying to apply that power to the racetrack, and then you're adjusting how much power the engine is making. What is the clutch seeing right now? What is it giving it right now? And those two things have got to be in perfect sync for it to all work. And, part of the conversation with Hoagie was just about, getting that in sync. He went a little bit more into detail, but, it's something they've been working on all year long. He said they really did learn quite a few things when they were in Charlotte, even though their results might not have shown it. But they do feel like, they were learning there and then made some changes during the few days off between Charlotte and here. And it definitely looked like now they've, I'm not going to say, absolutely positively it's fixed, but it sure looks like what they did after Charlotte looked like it certainly was positive. So now we'll go to Dallas, see what Mother Nature gives us down there, and then see what happens.
Steve Torrence gets through Buddy Hull first round. Clay Millican takes down Antron. So like you said, points leaders are out. Steve gets around Clay. Steve races Doug, who took out Brittany. Just awesome stuff. But Steve takes out Doug. Steve goes to the final round, other side of the ladder. You got Josh Hart getting through Scott Palmer, getting through Mike Salinas, getting through Sean Langdon, and squares up in the final round against Steve. That was a good race. Josh is 48. Steve's 27. Wow. And just a great race. 374.1 beats a 374.9. Steve Torrence is your winner. And the points, Justin Ashley leads Steve by 14, Brittany by 30, Salinas by 35, Antron by 43, Josh by 64, Doug Coletta by 88. All of those guys are in it. And oh, by the way, got to mention Doug Coletta, right? Back-to-back semifinals. And the car is, they've thrown some 60s up on the board now. And it looks like Alan Johnson and those guys are, figuring it out. And could end, if they continue to ascend at each race, they will be some sort of factor before this is over.
Well, yeah, I think so. And I think they will. Like you said, it's taken some time. I think it's like when Brian Karate came back to Antron. Everybody figured, okay, the band's back together, right away they're going to start cranking out number one hits, and it just didn't quite work that way. But now they've had some time together, and everybody's got back in sync. I think from the inside, I figured that there would be some kind of an adjustment period with Alan going to Coletta simply because he didn't have the whole team go with him as they have in the past. And so Alan's way of doing things is a little bit different, and Alan's level of acceptance, let's say, is a little bit different. He's got some different tolerances that are, good enough or okay than some other teams and some other crew chiefs do. And it just takes time to get everybody used to the fact that, I've always done it this way. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. Well, but we're still not going to do it that way anymore. And then getting them to understand, this is what I need you to do. This is how it needs to be. And a lot of that stuff just takes time, especially when you've got a lot of guys over there that have a ton of experience. They all know exactly what they're doing. But it's kind of a retraining thing. So it's taken some time, but they're coming around, both the cars in the semifinals last week. And I still expect Doug to win at least one race before the year's over with. And there's only 3 left. So he better get after it.
And he's only 88 points out of the lead. And if he was to win a race, that's the thing. It's not over yet. And, ad nauseum, this is what I've been trying to explain about it, in that people love the NFL playoffs because, this is the most popular sport in the United States of America. They generate billions of dollars, and their business model, at least when it comes to the entertainment side, I don't know if you could say it's unquestionable, but it's definitely very successful, where you've got wild card teams that barely make it in because of whatever reason. And if they get hot at the right time, they can take down the team that was perfect in the Super Bowl and win it. See Giants versus Patriots. And you can complain all you want. Well, that year, the Patriots didn't lose only one game. And guess what? They lost the championship game, and that is it. So for Doug Coletta, a team that kind of didn't have it all together, we were figuring things out, and now they're figuring it out. Now they're getting hot, and they add a runner-up or a win to their couple of semifinals. You just don't know. And they would be the champion just the same. And I find that exciting coming from a sports background. I know some traditional purist drag racers lament it. They don't like it, but this is what it is. This is what it is. And we can talk about Robert Hight's concept. But before we do that, though, I do want you to talk about Austin Prock, because a lot of people have reached out to me. What happened there? And you gave a great explanation about you can't make up a number for the guy. Like when you throw out the number because the number is invalid in qualifying, you can't make up what the number would have been. There's no way to say, well, that was a 370 or 69.9 and put him in with all those other competitors. So can you just explain for the folks out there that were a little confused? They saw a 367, 393 up on the board, what maybe happened and why there's no way to do it any other way than to just throw out the number. And unfortunately, it's kind of bad for them because they've made a really good run. We just don't know what it was.
Well, something stopped the elapsed time before the car got there. It's as simple as that. And the elapsed timer is also the speed stop for the final speed trap. The final speed trap is 66 feet long, and the elapsed time at the back is the speed stop. So I'm sorry, I've got the numbers on my phone. So this is what they went back and looked at. Okay, if you look at the run that Austin made, he was side by side with whoever number 4 is. And you look at them, they're 100th of a second apart at the 330 foot mark. At the 8th mile, 2.972 to 2.976. Okay, that's on the elapsed time. So they're within 0.004 of a second, and they're within about a mile an hour. And then at the quarter mile mark, Austin was 200ths of a second ahead. Now, 200ths of a second, in order to pick that up in the last 300 feet of the racetrack, the way you do that is running 393 miles an hour. Well, the car obviously didn't run 393 miles an hour. So something triggered the finish line before the car got there. And I'm not talking about, we all have seen, right, where the car leaves the starting line and a super stock car gets a 3.4 second ET. And you go, okay, well, something blew through the beam, automatic, that. So the run's no good. Well, that's what happened here, only instead of blowing through the beam, 3 seconds too soon, it blew through the beam literally a couple of hundredths or 300ths before the car got there. They went back, extrapolated all the numbers, looked at it, and said, yeah, absolutely, that was not going to be a 367. It probably was a 369 or a 370. But as you said, Joe, you can't make that number up. All you can do is disallow that particular run, and then he falls back on his next best run, which put him where he was. And just to go back, we go back a little bit earlier in the field. I think that's Antron did run 367, and his number at the 8th mile was 100th and a half faster and a little bit more on the speed, and then he carried it out to 329 miles an hour, so that equates to the extra 200ths of a second. Is it a bad break for Austin? Absolutely. But it's not, it's just an anomaly that what are you going to do? You can't stick with a run that is bogus. And you can't just make something up because it's like, well, we think he ran pretty close to this, so let's just go ahead and put him in here. The only thing you can do is go to his next official run and use that to put him on the ladder. That's rule, that's policy, that's the way it's been forever, and that's what they did in this case, which then lined him up with Brittany round one. And then, of course, he dropped the cylinder right at the step and then went up into smoke 100 feet out, and Brittany took care of her business.
But like it was said out there, and I love Ron Tobler, Joe Barlam, they're friends. Austin, I think, is great, is going to be great and greater for the sport, but they weren't going to run 68. Now, Brittany did miss the tree a little bit, but they had to go up against that incredible world record run, and they smoked the tires. So tough stuff, bad followed by more bad, right? Like, oh, your run doesn't count. And now you have to run your teammate, and like a compounding negative, but there was no way out, unfortunate, and an anomaly. We wish it didn't happen. Hey, George Fritz is out there watching from Warsaw, Poland right now. Alan, truly the worldwide of NHRA drag racing. Any final thoughts on Top Fuel before we move on, other than, boy, the points are super close, and this thing is just going to get better and better because you can't handicap it now. Now it's like someone mentioned that Brittany's team cracking when it matters. I don't think they're cracking. I think they're doing like everybody else is doing, struggling in a great struggle, and they could win the next two races and you won't be saying that. Like, you just don't know yet. Top Fuel, it's impossible to characterize anyone's performance yet.
Well, I think you look at every team out there, every single team out there, and at some point during the season, they've gone into a little 2 or 3 race mini slump. Brittany's team had. They just saved it for the countdown, which obviously isn't perfect timing, but it looks like they went through a little couple of race mini slump. But I really believe, and I spoke to David Grubnick pretty extensively this weekend as well, he believes that they've got everything straightened out. He believes that they are on track, and there's 3 races left. There's plenty of time. So, they stubbed their toe a little bit, but they're not out of it by any means. It's not like, well, you have to win the next 3 races to win it all. No, you don't. You just have to go back and do what you were doing earlier in the season, which is going rounds every week, which is picking up points in qualifying every run down the racetrack, which is doing exactly what you were doing before, and you guys are going to be just fine.
Right. And avoid a first-round loss, obviously, for everybody involved. Like, avoid catastrophic failure. You can keep going to the semis, get some round wins, get those qualifying points. You're going to be leaving it up to fate. If you can win 3 in a row, you're going to be the champ. It's pretty easy for all of those drivers, right? Win 3 in a row, and you'll be the champ. Yep. I am pretty confident. Let's move over to Funny Car, where Robert Hight was the number 1 qualifier, got that first round bye, got through Wilkerson in the second round, got through Hagan in the semis, and got to Capps in the final round. Capps, on the other hand, got through Daniel Wilkerson in the first round, got through Cruz Pedregon, got Lee Beard out there now, set his personal best speed. I thought that was a good move by the cruiser, and I told him so. It's exciting to see that. But Capps got him in what was a great run. Force gets through J.R. Todd. Force and Capps square up. Capps beats Force, sets up Capps and Robert in the final round. And this is something we've talked about for years now. It wasn't a 20-point final. It was a 40-point final.
Yep.
Because, you prevent your nearest competitor from gaining the 20, and you get 20. That's a 40-point final. To me, those are championship runs right there. We got to see a championship run in the final round of St. Louis. Which way would it go? And in this case, it went to Robert Hight.
Well, we got to see a couple of them, actually. I mean, the semifinal runs are the top 4 in points. If instead of Capps and Robert being in the final, it ends up being Force and Hagan in the final, we're having exactly the same conversation. They've tightened it up even more, and it ends up looking more like Top Fuel. But those 4 cars have been, for the vast majority of the year, the best cars out there. Tasca had a heck of a swing during the summer, but the last couple of races, he hasn't quite been there, and they need to figure it out pretty quickly to get back into the conversation. He's still got a fast car. He's still got all the confidence in the world, but they need to get out there and get some Sunday results here the last couple of 3 races, to get back into it. Robert is, he's had the best car all year. He looks like he's got the best car now, and even though they did go through a little mini slump, kind of in the middle of the summer or towards the end of the summer, they look like now they're back in championship form, and they're going toe-to-toe with the other cars that they're going to be battling it out with. And, Robert and Jimmy and Chris and the guys they're not sitting back in the trailer going, boy, I hope somebody takes Capps out early. They're going, send him, send him to us and we'll take care of our business. And I think that Ron Capps feels the same way about his team. They know they let one get away there, but I think that Ron Capps would like to go head-to-head with Robert every week. And if he could set it up to do it first round or second round, I don't think that would bother him a bit, because they believe they have a car that can outrun Robert on any given day and on any given racetrack, and they're out to prove it. And, they've done it a few times this year. It's just fun to watch if you're a fan, because the teams that are throwing down head-to-head, and it's fun to watch.
Well, exactly. And Robert leads Capps by 46, Hagan by 103, Force by 114, Tasca by 170, Alexis by 217. If Alexis won the final 3 races in a row, I guess anything's possible, but I don't see all of those guys losing first round a couple of times. And so that's where I feel like we're getting a little murky in terms of who's still in it. But I look at Tasca. The guy went 89 in the first round to get around Bobby Bodie. He's 47 on the tree, 396.8, and losing to Hagan. And that's it, loaded up. That's not a terrible performance by any means. In fact, he was as quick as Force was, one who beat JR. He was okay, good on the tree. Doesn't matter. A little racing luck, a little Sunday luck helps too. And he didn't get it. And maybe that run right there ended his championship hopes. We don't know. But when we look back, he was fully in it until that second round race. And then after that second round race, Robert goes on to win. It became a lot more difficult.
It did. And I'm not ready to write Tasca off yet, but if he loses ground in Dallas, then I think, you can pencil him, off the list, because I think he's got to gain 50 or 60 points in Dallas at least to have a realistic chance. Because if your plan going into the last 2 races is, okay, I need Robert and Capps to both lose first round in the next 2 races, that's not a plan that's going to work out for you very often.
Unlikely. And that's it. And just what is the story of the situation at this exact moment? And that is the story. Like, Tasca goes into the Stampede of Speed in a must final round, right? Like, you go to the final, and then you've got something with 1.5 points at Pomona. If you fail to go to the final, if Robert gains points on you, you're in trouble. And, I know it's hard to qualify at the bottom of the ladder on purpose. You can't just push in the clutch like you can in Pro Stock, which that was lucky too. But the semifinal, you mentioned it. What was it, Alan? 572 final round appearances among the 4 of them.
Yep. Between Force, Capps, Hight, and Hagan. They had 572 final round appearances, not counting the 2 that, obviously Robert and Ron just added 2 more.
And just a great final. Robert's 41, Capps is 59. They both, put it in there a little bit. Capps runs a 90 with an 8. Robert runs 91-1. Robert wins. And now 2 out of 3. Those guys have won all 3 of the races. It's been Robert, Capps, Robert. And we'll see. But Robert Hight, I'll foreshadow a little bit what he says in the interview following, which is he goes, I want to revamp the countdown a little bit. I don't want to go back to the regular thing, but I really think that wins should matter more, because he goes, if I end the season with 8 wins, more than I've ever had in my whole career, I don't think I'm going to be the champ with 8, because I'm going to have to win more than 8. He goes, I think wins should matter more somehow in the points system. And you know what? The general premise, I agree with. How to do it, I don't know. But the general premise, I agree. I think wins should count somehow for more.
Well, I mean, the way NASCAR does theirs, if you win in the regular season, then you get what they call playoff points that you can carry with you down to, they won't count the last race of the season in NASCAR, but, and, if what's Robert's pitching, let's just say that you gave 10 points for a win.
Yeah.
When you reset the countdown, if you have 5 wins, then you get your normal whatever plus 50 points. Then you're being rewarded more for your early season success. You don't get it all taken away. And, except for the 5 or 10 points as they do the splits going into the countdown. I don't think I'd have too much of an issue with that. I, certainly think it might be worth kicking around. But that would also keep some teams from going into, complete experimentation mode in the middle of the season. Then you would know, and we've heard it from teams for years and years, right? You talk to a guy, I remember, and this goes back years ago when Tommy DeLago was working with Matt Hagan, and they went out on the Western Swing, and I think they lost first round first or second round in all 3 races. And I went by to see him first round of Brainerd, and I said, "Man, you're not running very good." And he said, "No, I'm fine." He goes, "I got all my countdown stuff." He says, "It's all sitting right there." He said, "I'm fine." He said, "I'm just waiting for him to start the countdown." He said, "I needed to do some experimenting." He said, "It didn't really make any difference to me if we won those 3 races or not. So I used those all for test sessions." And then the countdown started, and he flipped a switch, and they ran through the countdown, and Matt won the championship that year. And so if there was some kind of tangible reward that you could carry with you into the countdown to the championship, that would stop teams from doing that. Or it would at least slow the process down a little bit, because if you know, yeah, okay, I just want to test and I don't really care if I win this race or not, you're giving up something that was going to help you later in the year, then that might change the thinking a little bit earlier in the season. So, I mean, I would certainly I wouldn't mind sitting in on the conversation and throwing in my 2 cents.
I agree. Well, and we've been, at least I've been saying on WFO for years prior to NASCAR making the change, right? Like that should happen. NASCAR made the change, and I think I'd like to see NHRA do what they did in the past with the whole playoff concept, reward the wins. And yes, it will make the playoff less unpredictable, right? Less close, but rightfully so. If somebody wins 10 times in the regular season and I win 1 time, I should not be just a couple of points behind them, right? It's there should be some benefit to dominating the regular season that is carried forward. Doesn't make it a foregone conclusion, but there's a formula that can be created that accomplishes both things, I think. And
well, you end up with the conversation on the other side being, well, gee, it's not like that in baseball, or it's not like that in football, right? If you won 10 games and I only won 6 games when we get into the playoffs, you don't get to start with a 2-touchdown lead. Now, that may be true, but I do get home field advantage, and that's something that I've earned because I have more wins than you. And since obviously there's not going to be such a thing as home field advantage in NHRA, it's not like, Robert can tell everybody, okay, come to my favorite racetrack this week. But that would be a way of rewarding, and I think, again, that's a perfect example of the fact that there is actually a reward in the stick and ball world for having more wins than your opponent when it comes to playoff time, because home field advantage is a pretty stout advantage, especially, I think, if you're a cold weather team. How many wins do you think Green Bay or New England got because they were playing in Green Bay or New England that maybe wouldn't have gone the same way had they been playing in Houston or Miami, in December? So, I think there's definitely something there.
And a first round bye. If you win the division, you can get a first round bye. You don't have to play the wild card week. You don't even have to play. You get to skip around. There is a benefit to being great in the regular season as opposed to being ordinary and making it in. But then again, like if you get hot in the playoffs, you can still go on and overcome that obstacle. It might just be a little more difficult. Something to think about, something to explore. Not saying it's terrible by any means, but I do think that that's worth having the conversation. Let's talk Pro Stock, where Erica Enders wins 4 consecutive races at Worldwide Technology Raceway, where Erica Enders becomes the winningest pro racer at Worldwide Technology Raceway. And they have just dominated that track on this given weekend. Erica was the number 4 qualifier, which is hysterical because she was only 1 foul off the number 1 qualifier. Gets through Chris McGahey, gets through Troy Coughlin. Troy Coughlin, by the way, I think it's worth pointing out. 0-11, runs a 54. They raced heads up. She beat him 24 light. For anybody that was wondering, that's a thing of the past. Gets around Kyle Koretsky in the semifinal, takes on Dallas Glenn in the final, and Dallas has a problem. Erica wins the race. Dallas gets through Hartford. Dallas gets through Aaron Stanfield. Dallas gets through Mike DePalma in our marquee matchup and a rematch of the final round. But look at the points standings. This is the one category that I don't want to say that you can hear the inevitability out there just yet, but it would be a nightmarish historic meltdown if somehow Erica and team did not figure out how to win this thing.
Yeah, it would take a pretty big collapse. They've had the best car all year. They still have got, if not the best, certainly one of the best. I talked to Jake Harrison in the winner's circle a little bit, and it was funny because he said, we really didn't run very well this weekend. Comparatively speaking, he said, we're looking at our notes, we're looking at things, we're looking at what we should be able to do and what we did. He said, we did enough but we really should have been able to run a little bit better. And if you look back over the course of the year, I mean, I think this is the first race, maybe the first race all year that she didn't pick up points in qualifying, because she's always been one of the quick three. Last week, she picked up 12 little points in qualifying. The week before that, she got 11 of them. And this week, I don't believe she got any of them. So it was just one of those situations where they've got a fast enough car that they could be off just a little bit and still be right as competitive as any of the other fast cars in the category. And that's what they did this weekend. They were off just a little bit, but they still carried it through.
Yeah, and again, she said all year long, been on a mission, right? On offense. They're on offense. She told us in the media center, we're on offense. We are going out there to not to not lose, but to win. And seeing her do that, pretty amazing. She told me before final qualifying, she said, we're working on race setup now. Got my race tires on there. Different deal. We're here to win the race. And they won the race. And we knew it last year, right? Greg and Erica down to the wire. Greg wins. Start the season. We got all these great players, but Erica Enders and Greg Anderson are the historic greats in the category right now. And she has put her signature, and the whole team has put their signature on 2022 in a very dominating way. And so she gets the job done. She has a 120-point lead over Aaron Stanfield, 153 over Kid Chaos, 157 over Troy Coughlin, 160 over Greg, 170 over Dallas, 194 over Matt Hartford. And those are the racers that are in contention for second, probably. But that's a good race. That's a great race for second, by the way. Hartford, another good weekend. Dallas having a good weekend. And that mix, Aaron to Hartford, that's pretty interesting. And then you got a huge gap to Erica.
Like I said, it would take a pretty big collapse, for Erica to not win it right now. And they're going to just keep doing what they've been doing, which is going out there and trying to keep their foot on everybody's throat. It's been working so far. I don't know why you change anything now.
Right. Exactly. And this is Erica Enders and Team Elite. It's not like they haven't been here before. They have been through the trials. But I do wonder, Alan, you may recall that a year ago, the Elite guys started trying to take shots at Greg and all of that stuff. And there was a lot of shenanigans, some of which were based on Greg taking shots at Erica, the previous, trying to qualify the bottom half of the ladder, right? Which I think you and I both agree is okay. Giving races to someone, my opinion, not okay. But you got a lot of KB cars that could try to get Erica out in the early rounds by qualifying in the bottom half of the ladder if they want to go into that desperation style mode. Do you see that happening maybe?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not sure if it'll happen this week, but I think, potentially in Vegas when we'll see where everything's at. I mean, you remember Greg did that with Erica in Pomona a couple of years ago, and it actually worked. He qualified, if I'm not mistaken, it was second and 15. But they ended up, be careful what you wish for, right? It's like, what do you want to do? I want to race Erica first round. Okay, then she kicked his ass. Now what do you want to do? And it didn't make any difference. And the thing with Erica is that her car's strong enough. She's driving strong enough. I don't think you can get in her head. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago you could get her, maybe. But right now, I don't think you can get in her head. I think that, if you told her, okay, Erica, here's what you got to do today. You got to run Greg first. You got to run Aaron second. You got to run Dallas third. She'd go, okay, yeah, send them. Let's go. What time? I'm ready. And I just don't know. Is it worth trying? I guess. I mean, why not? You really got nothing to lose. But if you can't beat her on a regular basis, then qualifying so you get your butt kicked first round instead of in the semifinals or in the final, I'm not sure that's a great plan. You've got to be able to beat her first, and then start chasing her down through other means. But right now, it doesn't look like there's really anybody out there who's got a car that can beat her on a regular basis.
Well, and strategy-wise, you might be able to get her early, but who's your guy, right? Is it Kyle Koretsky who's got the most points? Like, who's falling on their sword for whom and going out and trying to take Erica out? Like, who is it? Is it Dow? Like, who is it? Because they're all in a clump. Every one of them has got some sort of aspiration to finish as high as is possible.
Sure.
Dallas is not going to give up his championship to finish second so that Kyle Koretsky can finish second. And same with Greg. Like, if Greg Anderson ends up second at the end of this year, that's a great year for GA. Finished second a year after he finished first. So I don't know. You might not end up seeing it. Not yet, or maybe not ever, because the field is so tightly.
Well, you also got to remember that all of those guys are paying a lot of money to race those cars. Rad Torque Systems is writing a pretty substantial check for Dallas. And, Lucas Oil and KPK are spending a considerable amount of money for Kyle. And so, again, what do you do? When Greg and Jason were both driving Summit cars and Jason had a chance to win the championship and Greg didn't, he goes out there and goes, okay, I'm going to try to qualify 14th or 15th and see what I can do. That's a teammate helping a teammate. That's two people that, not only out of the same stable, but with the same name on the side of the car, with the same ownership. That's not the same as, I just don't see Dan Provost, who is the CEO of RAD, telling Dallas, yeah, okay, it's okay for you to throw away your success to try to help somebody else, when he's footing the bill to make sure that his car and his driver are seen on TV as much as possible and are seen on the racetrack as much as possible. Would you shut off a little bit early and try to go after somebody in round number one? Maybe. But would you jeopardize your chance of finishing second in the points or third in the points? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I agree. Like, everyone's got to be out for their own right now. This is not a bipolar battle, right? Where it's one versus the other. There's still so many people that have got a chance to have a great season that they look back upon, and it's not, if you're not first, you're last when you're talking about the top 10 in points in the Camping World Series. Like, two is better than two.
If you've got a chance to win the championship and you take a swing, and if you fail, you're going to be fifth instead of second. If it's me, I'm taking that risk, because if I think I can win the championship, but if I fail, I'm going to lose 3 or 4 spots, I'll take that risk. But if I've got a chance to finish second, or I can take a risk and finish 8th, I'd rather be second. I mean, I think that, not only financially, but, if you have a legitimate chance to win the championship and the way you do it is that, then go for it. I would. But if I really don't think I've got a legitimate chance of winning the championship, I'd rather finish second or third than finish 6th or 7th. I just would.
There you go. And you have to have the confidence that you're going to be able to get it done when you do.
Sure.
And you can only be 000. And if Erica's 11, like she can be at any time, and she's going to probably outrun you by a hun, what are you going to do with that? Right? It's
exactly.
Like, what are you going to do with that? And that's why the year has gone the way it has gone. It has not been a typical year, because she can have a light whatever she wants, and she's about 1.5 quicker than anybody else most of the time. Most of the time. So, and hey, I say it a lot. Sometimes you lose, right? You go out there, you do your best, and you get beaten. That's part of drag racing as well. Let's move over to Pro Stock Motorcycle, where this is kind of an interesting scenario shaping up also, right? Like, Joey Gladstone is just a couple of points behind Matt Smith. And I don't want to call it a 2-horse race, because Angie Smith is 90 behind. 21 points Joey is behind Matt. They've raced each of the last couple of races. Matt won 1, Joey won 1, but Matt goes on to beat Jerry Savoy in the final round, gets through Joey, gets through Kelly Klontz after that first round bye run. Jerry wrecking some shop out there, takes down Flying Ryan, takes down Angel on a hole shot, takes down Eddie on a hole shot. And like, that's what Jerry does. He's a guy is, ruining people's hopes and dreams. And now Angie's 90 out. Eddie's 106 out. Steve is like lost in the wilderness, 107 out. But I'm feeling like we're going to see the Matt Smith versus Joey Gladstone epic battle here. Matt, the cagey veteran at the top of his game, trying to cement himself as one of the greatest of all time, with Andrew Hines and Dave Schultz, both with 6 championships. And the young, like, hey, I'm here too, Lion, that's going to fight him for it. But when you talk to Matt Smith, it would be really, I don't want to say it would be amazing or a shock for Joey to win, but that would be a big accomplishment to take down Matt Smith right now, with Matt running as well and as confident as he is.
Well, maybe, but I think, Joey's riding with a lot of confidence also. And that young man's got a lot of experience and a lot of focus. He doesn't get distracted by other things. He doesn't get sidetracked by other things. He's there to get on the motorcycle and go win races. And you said he's gone head to head with Matt the last couple of them, and they've split. Matt's bike was the superior performer this past weekend, no question. But there have been a couple of times this year where Joey's bike was the superior performer. So they need to get that back. They need to find out why the bike wasn't running up to par, why it was as far behind Matt as it was, as was pretty much everybody else on the property. And if they can do that, then I think they're right back in the battle. That I wouldn't quite count out anybody else yet, but we'll, after Dallas, I think we'll have a whole lot clearer picture. But I think that those two are probably going to be the primary players. But somebody else could still step up. Like I said, I'm not quite ready to write everybody off.
Well, it all depends on if Matt has any reliability issues. I think over the years that has been when he loses early, it's because the bike won't shift or something breaks or something like that. It's been very infrequent that he goes out there and just like trips on his own feet and gets beaten by a much slower qualified bike in the early rounds. We'll just have to see. He says Chip Ellis is going to be on the Suzuki in Dallas, showing everybody exactly how quick that thing can be. And so we'll see. But for the fans, they have got a very clear dividing line here. You got upstart Joey Gladstone, fresh face, fresh team that everybody loves, versus Matt Smith, been around 5 championship, dominating the last 10 years or so of pro stock motorcycle, winning those championships. And I think it's going to be Matt Smith and his fans versus fans of everybody else liking to see Joey Gladstone. And yes, Angie's in the mix too. No disrespect to Angie. Angie's been riding she's sitting third, right? 90 out of the lead. Angie said she got her glove caught in the clutch, first time ever in her career, and she took the blame for what happened out there. But Angie's got a quick and fast bike as well, so she can switch things up. But this is where, and I had a great conversation with Nicky Bonafonte in the Admirals Club at the airport. He says, in moments like these, you've got to be able to dig down deep and find something. You've got to be able to dig down and find something. So that person who wants to say, enter the conversation, they're going to have to be good against Matt, and they're going to have to get down the track and run a career best and shock him. And that would count as digging down deep and taking out the points leader. We'll see. And we've got a couple weeks to wait and see. Fall Nationals.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in a lot of race shops over the next couple of weeks, because if you want to get back into it, you're going to have to figure out why your performance isn't where it needs to be. And I think there's a number of teams out there that felt like last week, you looked at what was available, you looked at what the pro stock cars were doing, and you look at the bikes and go, okay, why aren't we as a group all running a little quicker? Matt really was, head and shoulders above the rest of them for the most part. And you need to figure out why that is and close the gap. I know, again, a couple weeks off, so there's going to be a whole lot of dyno time, a whole lot of test time, a whole lot of guys going over a lot of details, trying to figure out just exactly what it is that's holding them back.
ProMod, Fuel Tech ProMod, this has been amazing too. With the way Chris Thorne started the season off, you thought he was going to just run away with it, but it hasn't materialized. We had 2 potential marquee matchups. Alan, I regretted not being able to put Stevie Fast and Lyle Barnett out there on the stage for everybody. Like, oh man, like this would be definitely, we could give them 5 minutes up there, right? Like, guys, you got the next 5 minutes. Here's a microphone each, talk and don't curse. And it would have been really fun. It worked out that we didn't have a lot of time in the pre-race show for that kind of stuff. But Chris Thorne and Ricky Smith battling each other, and Chris Thorne takes down Ricky. If he can go on and run the table, he can give himself a lot of breathing room. He gets beaten second round by Daniel Ferris, who goes on to win the race over J.R. Gray. Stevie Fast takes out Lyle. Stevie Fast takes out Doug Winter. Stevie Fast loses to J.R. Gray, who had a very difficult time just making it to the final at all. ProMod, 1.5 points at the Fall Nationals, the final race, that could still go any direction.
Well, I think that the first thing we got to know is if Ricky Smith is even going. There was some scuttlebutt going around that if Ricky didn't close up the gap a little bit, that he wasn't going to drag his stuff to Texas. So he said if he didn't feel like he had a legitimate shot, not like, we need divine intervention or something, that he was basically going to concede the championship and go home, because, he's been racing for a living forever. And he certainly gets some help from the folks at SoCal and from Parkway and the other guys, but he still races on a little bit more of a budget than a number of those guys do. And, you think about in years past when he didn't make the trek out to Vegas or didn't, and he looked at it as a dollars and cents thing. If I'm going to go there, what's my potential upside versus what's my real expense up front? And I don't know for a fact, but I know that there was at least some rumblings about, that Ricky, if he didn't beat Chris Horn in the first round and close the gap a little bit, that he potentially might not go to Texas. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Oh, I'm going to put the brakes on that right now. And just like, if nothing else, go on the record. Alan, I'll single myself out here so you're not associated with these comments if you don't want to be. Ricky Smith, you are 65 points out of the lead at a race that's worth 1.5 points. If you do not go and run the final race, that is a tremendous mistake, regardless what the outcome would be. You're 65 points out of a championship. Have you ever overcome that many points in the final race? I think probably you have over your long and illustrious career. So you need to go to the Texas Motorplex, baby. 65 points. You can do that. And it might not work out, Alan. But come on, like really? Yeah, I didn't go. I was 65 points out. It was 1.5 points. And I didn't go. He'd regret that for the rest of his life. For the rest of his life, he'd wake up, 80-year-old man. He would wake up like, what was I thinking? I should have gone. For the price of what it costs to go to Dallas. I mean, we're not asking you to go to Seattle here. That's it. You don't have to agree. No, I heard the talk. Ricky gave a speech. This is his final race in the drivers' meeting. And he said, everyone, he had great respect and he, loved everybody and all that stuff, teared up. But come on, Ricky, 65 points. You're in the middle of it, man. You're in the middle of it. People in pro stock would kill to be 65 points behind Erica Enders right now.
Agreed.
Yeah, there it is. Fat lady is humming in pro stock, says M-Dog. Remember when Corey Mack skipped San Air is what Terry says. Anyway, all right. Any other final thoughts, Alan, before we let you go? Something that we maybe didn't discuss. Certainly we had our, Adam Hickey and Comp Eliminator has a buy run as Jason Grima crashes on a buy run that was terrible. We had gotten all the Australian fans so excited and just a terrible fire slid on his roof. But at least he was okay. But Adam Hickey getting his first win, Marion Stevenson in Superstock, very emotional. Jimmy Hidalgo, 20 years after his dad won at the same race. Junior Houston wins his first race a week after his dad won. Wow, that's amazing. Rob Kropfeld, Danger Boy, goes out there in Super Gas. Darian Bosch and Top Dragster and Daniel Ferris, of course, in Pro Mod. Anything you want to name check, highlight, or mention?
No, just that it was a great race. I think, Curtis Francois and Chris Blair, who take care of the facility every year, you go back and, I assume you do the same thing I do. You pull in for the first time and go, oh, that's new. And look, they've updated that. And look, they've spiffed up and upgraded. And they continue to reinvest in the facility. Mother Nature was kind to us. And, the staff and the people at Worldwide Technology Raceway just did a spectacular job. Just want to, the two big incidents on the weekend, Jason, you mentioned, man, on a buy run, you're just like, oh, you hate to see that happen to anybody. And then, of course, Khaled Al-Balushi, who had the problem in Pro Mod. His first wreck as a Pro Mod driver, and he was, it's just a shame because tearing up the car, one race to go, just all of the stuff going on out there, and to do it on a run that, in essence, the race was over. If only he'd have known, that, oh no, the other guys have got problems, then you don't worry about driving it that far. Or if you get if the chutes hit 100 feet earlier, you're probably okay. But I'm just glad that both of them were okay, that the cars did what they were supposed to do and protect their drivers. And now I know, for the Camping World Series, everybody gets to kind of catch their breath a little bit. I know you're headed to Texas, and I'm headed right back to St. Louis for a double divisional, which will wrap up D3.
On that note, I was inviting everybody out to come out to Worldwide Technology for the points race. Obviously, if they can't be at the Stampede of Speed, I think there's enough distance between those two venues for us to share the fans. But tell everybody, if they're in that area and they love drag racing, they can definitely go out and see some amazing cars once again.
Well, there won't be any of the Camping World cars there, but they will have Alcohol Dragster and Alcohol Funny Car, and there's still a lot going on in the championships of both of those. And then, of course, everybody that runs in the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series all the way down to Super Street. I'm expecting probably 500 cars. And it's going to be chilly. We've got a cold front that looks like it's going to be coming through on Friday and Saturday, which means it will be stupid fast out there for the sportsman cars. So if you're in the St. Louis neighborhood, swing back out to Madison and catch out some of the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series. It's going to be a fun weekend. We've got a double divisional, which means we're going to start qualifying time trialing on Thursday. We're going to run a complete race on Friday, 2 conclusion handout trophies, and then we'll come back and start again on Saturday with time trials and qualifying, and go into eliminations and hand out trophies again on Sunday. So you get 2 complete races in one weekend. Come on down.
Genius idea by the division directors to start doing that. And that was one of my friends back in the day who was supportive of the I side of things, was like, man, we go to some place and we get to run twice. Guess what? We're doing that now. You get to run twice. I think it is a great deal for everybody. It cuts your opportunity cost in half. And I don't know, it's been like 5-6 years since NHRA has been doing that. And I think it is a great benefit to the racers.
We did it first, Division 7, just so you know, we did it first.
Mike Rice, the guy.
Yep.
He's good stuff. All right, Alan, great job. Enjoy your VO work, and we'll have a great race out there. We'll talk next week, and I'll be at the Texas Motorplex.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
Here he goes, voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. Couple things. I got some audio from the winner's circle, some, not all. I will explain that to you. I do want to tell you about the people who make it possible. I put a couple of links up in the chat section. For our YouTube channel, we're still, we're inching up our subscribers there. We were very late in the going to the YouTube channel, and everybody like Facebook made me update my page here today and a bunch of different stuff. I am not going to be able to play my Steve Torrence and Erica Enders interviews. I'm not going to be able to play them today. I will be able to play Robert Hight. I will be able to play Matt Smith. And this is something that I've learned through experience over the past couple of weeks. And I'll tell you why. I'll try to put them out on social media. But here's the deal. Whenever we're in the winner's circle, part of the celebration is to bring music. And when that music gets into the background of one of my interviews, Facebook and YouTube, they use their AI to lower the volume and cut out all the volume so that there is no copyright infringement issues. And so I've noticed this a couple of times, and it's a bummer because I'll be doing an interview in the winner's circle and then someone will crank up the Skinnerd and it's like, oh, this is going to kill the interview, and it's just ruined. And that's what happened to me a couple of times this weekend. It is unfortunate. I'll try to put them out on social media standalone and see what happens, but I'm not going to ruin the whole show here because of that. But we will have Robert Hight, we will have Jimmy Prock, and we will have Matt Smith because there was no music in the background for those interviews. And you'll hear their confidence and you'll hear what they have to say about the countdown. My apologies, obviously, but I know Erica and Steve both prefer to come on the show like real, and maybe we'll get them in the future. Something else I want to say, this guy, Earl Nichols. After the Charlotte show, we were, 3 in a row. I didn't get to talk about him, but I want to talk about him now. This guy, I don't want to call him a ham and egger, right? Because he's a veteran, but he got his like Rocky Balboa shot to drive the Robin and Tony Samsel machine in Top Alcohol Dragster for the first time at Maple Grove. And he did really well. And so I don't know how it worked out, but they invited him back to run at Charlotte. And those guys they reached out to me and they said, hey, swing by the pit, and I did not get to do it because there's so limited time. And I know it probably sounds crazy. Like, you don't have time to go by someone's pit. And the answer is no. The answer is no. We are WFO from start to finish. But Earl went to the final and he won the final at the Betway Carolina Nationals. And for a guy who's been painting cars his whole life, who has run super gas and has been out there with dreams. He's run some A-Fuel cars he was happy to be in the field. He was happy to be qualified. And then to get into a top tier car, like the Robin and Tony Samsel machine or one of the top, and go out there and win the race and cement everything that he had wondered about himself. Like, can I do this? Am I the type of person who could win a race in a great car? The answer, Earl, is yes. And so Earl Nichols, who our relationship really hinges on the fact that I didn't recognize him at the U.S. Nationals this year because he was out of uniform, no logos, away from the car, just a guy coming up to me, hey, Joe. And I'm like, I just want to make sure everybody knows that this guy had a tremendous emotional victory at the Betway Carolina Nationals a couple of weeks ago. And I also wonder how many other great super gas, super comp racers that are out there, smashing their head against the wall on a regular basis, doing it for the love, if given the right opportunity, could put it together and go out there and win. Earl did it. And good job, Earl. Good job, Earl. Now let me off the hook for not recognizing you, for gosh sakes. Gee whiz. All right, let me tell you about the Marvin Rodak family. 817-924-6821. Everybody's going down to the Stampede of Speed. The thing about Rodak's is it's coffee, and so some people are hindered by the shipping. They're like, I just get the garbage at the grocery store that's vacuum packed that's not really good because it's cheap. But if you're going down to the Stampede of Speed, if you're going to be in Dallas or Fort Worth area anyway, maybe now's the time you pick up a large supply of Rodak's coffee. You swing by, you pick up 10 pounds, 20 pounds. You're good for the next 6-8 months, you and your team. And that is true for grills. Not only do they have the absolute highest level of grills and tools and all kinds of barbecue stuff, primo ceramic grills, they have all of that. You want to raise your tailgating game, you want to raise your grilling game at the track, go to Rodak's. 817-924-6821. Since the whole drag racing world is heading down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the Texas Motorplex Stampede of Speed, now is the time to reach out to Marvin and hook up. 817-924-6821. Thanks to Marvin. He'll be hanging out with our WFO stuff. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Dragster Adventure. Holidays are coming. To me, this is the best gift you're going to get anyone because it's an experience that they will love for the rest of their lives. They will look back at it fondly. And, you just have to look at Alexis DeJoria and how well she did when Frank was there, consulting and giving her points to know that going on the Dragster Adventure, you're going to gain a lot more value than the $399 or rate that it costs to do the Dragster Adventure. Get it as a gift for yourself or your friends and family for the holidays this year. You get a certificate. They choose when they go. They choose where they go. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more. If you're looking for a career, samtech.edu, you probably know by now, there are jobs everywhere. Jobs and jobs and jobs. And we got new infrastructure that's coming and all kinds of stuff that's happening here in the good old US of A. Machinists are needed. They are required. If we're going to be able to do any of this stuff, we need the people to do it. And Samtech grads are going to be the ones doing it, whether it be engine block programs or cylinder head programs, CNC programs, motorsport EFI tuning. You could end up on a race team. Go to samtech.edu. Brian Massengill and the family doing a great job setting up the shop. We're going to make a school. And they did it. Samtech.edu. And of course, tell them you heard about it on WFO. Bernie Speed Shop. Josh Hart getting to the final round. Josh Hart, 67 points. Back to Ricky. Ricky is 65 points out in second. Josh Hart's 67 points out in sixth. They both have a chance to win the championship, except Ricky doesn't have to leapfrog 5 other drivers. He's just got to get around 1. You beat Chris Thorne in the first round. You win the race. You're the champ. Ricky's got to go. Ricky's got to go. Like, start that hashtag. That's crazy. Honestly, that would be crazy. I know Matt and Angie and sometimes Ricky out there watch. Like, my opinion, that would be nuts to not go. But that's your own business. Everybody makes decisions for themselves. I can't make decisions for anybody else out there. But like, how anticlimactic would that be? Yeah, Ricky didn't show. Bernie Speed Shop, $5 million in inventory. They do consignment. They do it all. They're located in Ocala, Florida. 7 minutes from Garlett's. Josh Hart says, invite everybody. Tell them to swing by. All right. But you can follow the social media. Phillips-Connect.com, Smart Trailer Technology. Jim Epler and the team out there creating countless sensors that keep track of everything while you're going over the road. And when I say you, can be you, but if you have a transportation industry, if you're like, Amazon, Walmart, these giant companies that have thousands of tractors and trailers going over the road, they keep them safe by keeping them connected with Phillips Connect. So check them out, Phillips-Connect.com. FTIperformance.com. Transmissions and torque converters. It's amazing how many people that go out there in these, $1 million bracket races. You get down to the final rounds, you look at the guys that are running FTI, and it's a lot of them. They have got a great product. Go to FTIperformance.com to find out more. But it's not just big money bracket racers. It's not just top dragster and top sportsman racers. It's not just super comp and super gas racers. They do transmissions for guys with muscle cars. They do it all. So if you are thinking about making an upgrade in that area of your driveline, go to ftiperformance.com. And they'll be at the SEMA show, and they'll be at PRI, and I'll be in their booth. So if you're planning on going there, keep ready. I'll let you know when to swing by. The Stampede of Speed starts this weekend. Friday, load in. Funny Car Chaos. Saturday, Funny Car Chaos. That's when I arrive. I'll be hitting my first Funny Car Chaos. That's a separate price of a ticket, by the way, Funny Car Chaos. And then Sunday, you've got the, Stars Over Texas Music Festival. And we're going to be doing burnouts on the track, and we're going to try to tie it all together. And then you got Palmer's Nitro Sideshow, and it's just going to be all kinds of madness. And we're going to have a great time. So hopefully you join us down there. Fan Fest, Champions Dinner. Champions, you can have Justin Ashley. You can have, that's an extra ticket price, by the way. But I think it's a value for the dinner and the intimate setting and the opportunity to like hang out with those guys. Not just them, but I think every Texas Motorplex winner has been invited to this. And a lot of people are already getting, they're going to get all gussied up, which put the pressure on me all of a sudden. It's like, oh man, all right, I got to wear something. Texas Motorplex can be a lot of fun the entire week. Stampede of Speed. It's not too late, and get your tickets for the Fall Nationals. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. That team doing super well. We got a new podcast up with David and Ray Barton. You got to listen to it. It's great because they don't do that kind of stuff. The Bartons they do their talking on the track, but it's a great podcast episode, but really an exercise in learning about ring seal. Why is it important to your bracket engine, to your streetcar engine, to your high horsepower Pro Mod engine? And it's crazy how many top tier engine builders that I go to and like, hey, do you, yes, absolutely. And yes, I'll come on the podcast. Go to totalseal.com. They got some special stuff planned for PRI as well. And I'll be in their booth as well doing hidden horsepower. So we start talking about PRI, we are at the tail end of the season. Want everybody to know the WFO store will be having a sale on the 12th through 16th. So if you want to get your WFO gear, your Morris Motorsports gear, all of that stuff, get ready to hit the WFO store. It is in the link, and you can get there on the website. All right, let's see what everybody has to say before I roll on out of here. Oh, one more thing. Our Patreons are doing a takeover. The Patreons guest hosting the Ignition Show has been so much fun over the past couple weeks. You can join the VIP Listener Club by going to patreon.com/WFO Radio, or just hit the website to find out more. Shout out also to Torque Calibration Services of Australia and CIP1, KI, do an interview out there. California Import Parts for you VW folks. Go to WFO Radio and you'll find out more. All right, let's see what people have to say. You're going to love Funny Car Chaos. I'll be there as well. I'm excited. I'm excited to see Funny Car Chaos. I don't believe in, I want to promote all drag racing. I'm an NHRA guy. Imagine you love Major League Baseball. But, and I don't want to say Funny Car Chaos is the minor leagues, but it's an analogy. NHRA Camping World Series is the Major League Baseball of drag racing. But you can still love other baseball. You can still go to a high school game or a college game or a single A game or a triple A game. You can go to all of those games and love baseball. And Funny Car Chaos gives people with Funny Car the opportunity to go race at whatever level of funny car racing they want to be, with the A and the B and the C and the D categories. I love it. I love the concept of it. You just got to be a funny car. It could be a twin turbo Pontiac powered funny car, but it can be a funny car. You're not hindered by a specific rule. It's whatever you want to do, whatever you want to build. So I'm excited to go see what they're going to do. And that kind of kicks it all off. Monica says, I'm lucky to get to see Funny Car Chaos. Take a lot of pics. And I will. My social media is going to be rocking. Mikey says, I missed Ricky not going to Dallas. What that's all about. So the deal is, Mikey, is that Ricky said in the drivers meeting to a bunch of drivers out there that he's not going to go to Dallas, that St. Louis is his last race because he's, I don't know what he was doing. It could have been psychological. It could have been anything. It could have been to try to get into Chris Thorne's head. It could have been anything, but people told me that's what he said. And maybe that's true. Or maybe it's not. I find it really hard to believe that a very realistic chance to go out as a champion would be left on the table and not going. Like, I just find that hard to believe. Like, I would be shocked. Unless there's something that I don't know about. A health issue, a friend health issue, something that I don't know about that is hindering it. Like 65 points and a half. Stevie Fast told me it's points and a half at Dallas. I was like, that's true. Let me go. Ran it up the chain. Yeah, points and a half. Final race. Earl Nichols. Thank you, Joe. Me and the Samsel team appreciate your comments. No driver is any good without a good car or good crew. I think we made a killer team, and we all proved it. The last 2 rounds were against the 2 best rails in the country. Yeah. Now, Earl, who did the Rocky thing up on the winner circle stage. Like, Earl, I'll tell you now, I was this close. I didn't want to ruin your moment because you were so great, but I was going to bust your chops back. They're like, so it's obvious that anybody can win in this car, right? Like, come on, anybody, this guy. But I didn't do that to you, Earl. But here I'll do it just for fun. Yeah, anybody can win in that car, obviously. Come on. Great show today. Thank you very much, Stephen Glenn. Hope to see you at the Motorplex. Yes, wear your WFO gear to the Plex. Represent. Definitely paid his dues, Earl, clearly. Great to see you out there this weekend. Was glad that you fared okay after ENC in Texas. I know it's going to be epic. Thank you, Tommy. It is going to be epic. Yeah, Hurricane Ian, guys. Totally devastating. Totally devastating. Don't know what to say about all the folks that are on the west coast of the state. I lived in Florida my whole life. I was born in South Florida. I remember the first hurricane I experienced, Hurricane David in 1980. I was 7 years old. We all went to my grandfather's house. It was barreling right at us. And then inexplicably, it turned north. And, once upon a time, they used to name hurricanes after women because they were unpredictable, right? We don't do that anymore. But that's why they did it back in the day. Hurricane David was a boy name. And it turns out that I actually am good friends with David, the person that Hurricane David was named after. My friend Dave, P-Dog, who lives out in California, owns a comic shop. His dad was the head of the Hurricane Center at the time. We were 7 years old. We didn't know each other at that time. But he named the hurricane after his son, David. And I think that's crazy. It's just kind of a random occurrence when you live in South Florida, right? But it's no joke. And then Hurricane Andrew, which fundamentally changed our existence down here. Homestead Miami Speedway exists because of Hurricane Andrew. Miami Hollywood Speedway doesn't exist because of Hurricane Andrew. The whole landscape of our area was changed because Hurricane Andrew Category 4, strong Category 4, but small and tightly wound like a giant tornado, ripped across the state, destroyed everybody's homes, and they all needed new homes. And so they built new homes on top of where the track was and a lot of area around it. But when this thing was coming in, guys, I was scared. I had a tornado right after this show last week. Shut off the show, went and did a little hurricane prep. You might remember that. And then the winds kicked up. One of the bands coming over us. A lot of rain, a lot of wind. Took a video of it, put it up on Twitter. You can still go see it, the one with my front lights. The Weather Channel or weather.com contacted me to ask me if they could use my video. In the video, the tornado warnings came out. And I thought about the people in Kansas, but this is Florida. There's no tornadoes. Come on. But if you go to my WFO Joe Twitter account, social media, you go to my Instagram, you can see it. Those, so it got clear afterwards and it got quiet afterwards. And I went out kind of looking around and realized that there was damage in the neighborhood. What had happened? A tornado. So I got on my bicycle and I rode around and I shot some video. It was eerie. Sirens in the background, quiet. It was crazy. People out in the streets. Those pods things that people put in their front yard for storage, when they're doing a home update or something. Well, one of the neighbors had one of those and it was flipped onto its top. Street signs flattened down to the ground. And this was a tiny little baby tornado that came off of a hurricane band. And at that point I was like, oh man. So I went to my parents and we closed our shutters. And I live on the East Coast of the state. We felt safe after it moved west, but we knew it was going to Tampa. It was going up there. Whenever I was a kid, we would go to Sanibel Island and Captiva Island for vacation, summer vacation, a few days. Grew up in the summers over there. Amazing memories. So when it started to turn in to Fort Myers, right across Sanibel and Captiva and Fort Myers, which is right across the state from us. I knew it was going to be trouble. There's a lot of big, really great, strong houses over there, and there's a lot of little trailer parks. Retired folks, people who have come to Florida to live out their days in an inexpensive way. And man, it was going to be bad. And they evacuated. Hopefully, as many people should have evacuated. Everybody should evacuate if you're in an evacuation area. And many did, many didn't. It was going to Tampa. That would have been so much worse. But then you see the devastation. And my heart is broken. And to get on a plane and go to something fun like drag racing and go work and be around my friends, like there was a feeling of uneasiness and a little bit of guilt. Like, what? The randomness of life. Like a minute ago, there was a tornado in my neighborhood and I was like wondering, oh my gosh. But just because of the randomness of nature and the randomness of life, I get to go to a drag race and have fun. And all these other people are going to be rebuilding their lives. People ask me, how long will it take them to rebuild? Like a year? And I said, like 20 years. Like 20 years. It's 30 years after Hurricane Andrew right now. And Homestead is now becoming bigger than it ever was before. A bustling area, bigger than it ever was before. But for a while, the track was the only thing there because everything else was destroyed. What happened in Sanibel and Captiva and Fort Myers and right across the state, but really ground zero there, Fort Myers Beach, it's not going to be the same for a decade, at least. Clean up. And, many won't ever go back because people don't understand. You can talk about the fear of a hurricane all you want, but until you've been through one and realize that you're facing sustained speed of 150 miles an hour for 4 hours, for 5 hours, for 6 hours, plus the rain and the storm surge, you're under 10 feet of water. You were on shore and now you're in the middle of the ocean. You can't imagine it. And that's what happened. People couldn't imagine it. They didn't imagine it. And bad things happen. And so I'm heartbroken for those folks. And it's a crazy juxtaposition for me to think about being able to go to a great race this weekend. The Stampede is Speed starting. Reinhardt's going to be out there. Drag racers doing their drag racing things. While at the same time, the same moment, our friends and our neighbors and people that we care about, like they're going through a really tough time. And I know a lot of people had houses down there. And maybe it was a second home or a vacation home. And, they're lucky to have those, but it doesn't make it any different to have something, wiped out. But I still am going to live in Florida, though, because as random as this occurrence is, the benefits of no winter time and the benefits of all that other stuff, like outweigh it. This is just, a hashtag thing, SoFlo life sometimes. And I'm on the beach or I got a cocktail. This is part of it. SoFlo life. I just, I want to wish my best to all those folks. Like, I don't know what to do about what you're going through. And if you see, a charity that and respect and you want to get involved, like, I think that's a good cause because there's a lot of people that have lost everything. They lost everything. Their pets running free out there with no, pet parents, no people. And there are charities that are diving in. And also, I want to accentuate the positive here, which is a very difficult time, but humanity in its finest hour also. The federal government and the state government working closely together in a time where, we always talk about our political division and everyone's like, they're working together. They're working together. What? Disaster? Work together. I love seeing that. I want to see more of that. Local people getting out into the streets. In my neighborhood, when the trees were down, blocking the streets, all the local people got out. They got their trucks. They got tow straps. They pulled the streets clear immediately. The people helping people going back in and saving people. I saw an interview with a guy yesterday, and he had like a big boat, like a big ship, like a fishing boat. And it was in the trees. And he didn't evacuate because they couldn't get out. They lowered the bridges. He waited too long. And they asked him, like, did he regret it? He said, no. And they asked him why. And he said, well, we saved 4 people. And if we weren't here, they would probably be dead. And so he lost everything, but he got to save 3 lives in a very difficult situation. And so he put himself in a situation where, yeah, I lost everything, but I saved 3 people. And in the worst of times, you see humanity at its best. You see people put aside all their divisions. You know, they're not Red Sox fans and Yankee fans. They're not, you choose the division you want to choose in this moment. As I mentioned, like all of that falls by the wayside. When you're going to help someone, no one's asking what their opinion is on a certain subject. Oh, we're going to leave you because you don't agree with us. And that's what we need to be. And that's what we need to get to. We need to learn from when things get really critical, like they did. And that's it. Sorry to get on the soapbox, guys, but I think it's important, and it's a very sad time. But the human spirit, they will build back. They will build back more resilient. They'll hopefully learn from lessons that were learned. And to me, that's drag racer mentality, right? Drag racer mentality. Like you send it, something doesn't go right, and you go back and you analyze it, you think about it, you improve. But that's what everybody loves about the drag racers, that there's nothing that they can't accomplish. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of resources and a lot of want to. Mikey. So I live in New Hampshire because the only storms that can really mess things up are big snowstorms. You don't have to worry about tornadoes and hurricanes, stuff like that. I don't know, man. Didn't you guys get that Superstorm Sandy a couple of years ago? That was pretty crazy. Yeah, don't say it, don't say it. Next thing you know, like a giant sinkhole will open up underneath you. Don't tempt my nature. Oh, really, Mikey? But I get it. I like the idea that I have the choice to leave when it comes to a hurricane. Like earthquake, you don't have the choice. Tornadoes, you really don't have the choice. Hurricane, it's coming. It's 5 days away. It's 4 days away. It's 3 days away. It's 2 days away. You can leave. And I feel something positive in that. I don't live in an evacuation zone, though. All right, guys, enough about that. Thoughts to you guys all out there. NHRA. Yeah, please, no. Watch out for the sinkhole, Mike. All right, guys. Thanks, Alan Reinhart. Thanks to all the racers. I'm going to put those interviews up on social media, guys. Got an internet issue right now, and that is preventing me from playing the Robert Hight, and the Jimmy Prock, and the Matt Smith. But we will. Don't worry. We will. All right, guys. Take care. Appreciate you all. And WFO.